Coming up, we're going to be continuing our series of Nick in the 90s, and today we're going to be talking about our favorite live action shows of the 90s on Nickelodeon in this episode of DIS Pop. DIS Pop is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect vacation. Visit them on the web at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Well, hello, everybody. I am your host, Ryno Craig, back from my European escapades, and I am joined this week by my co-host, Craig Williams.
Oh, hoy, hoy.
Yes, so I have returned. It's for you guys. It's felt like no time has passed because we recorded those episodes 2 or 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Our Nicktoons and our Nickelodeon and why we love it, and we're going to continue beating that dead horse for 2 more weeks. This week it's Nickelodeon live action shows of the 90s, and then next week we're going to do variety shows and game shows.
This one's a massive one. A lot of nostalgia here. Some good, obviously. We're going to talk about all of your favorites. Unfortunately, we're probably going to also mention some of the ones that I'd rather forget. I'm talking about You Cousin Skeeter. That was such a stupid idea for a TV show. That puppet.
Well, they never even acknowledged that he's a puppet ever either. He's just a person.
I know. I can't. But hey.
Well, before we get too far into it, I wouldn't really forgive myself if I didn't mention this on the show. This doesn't really have anything to do with this or anything like that, but I've been thinking a lot lately. You know, I got back and I wasn't really connected too much to the world because you rely on Wi-Fi and stuff like that, and you get back. And I've just been thinking lately, you know, it seems like hate is just boiling up everywhere in the world right now. Like if this were New York City, we'd be drowning in pink slime. If this were Ghostbusters 2, I mean, sorry. And unfortunately, this last weekend, that girl, the young girl, Heather Heyer, lost her life, the 32-year-old, and it kind of, resonated with me in a way. Like, this isn't a political statement or anything like that. I'm just saying that this girl, she died doing what she believed in, and and that should inspire people. And I'm just thinking, like, it feels really dark a lot lately, and so I'm gonna put out a challenge out there for people, us included, is that maybe just once a week, or if you can even do it once a day, I would challenge you to do something nice for somebody else. Whether that's like a monetary thing, buy somebody's coffee behind you in line, surprise them, hold the door for somebody, just use please and thank you a little bit more in your day. Something just little, and I would say, like, just kind of, you can share that with me, with us, through any means you want, through the email, through the Twitter, through whatever, because I'd like to start hearing about more good stuff in the world.
This is a great time to be alive.
Yeah.
DuckTales is back on TV.
Right. There's like Scrooge McDuck has risen like a phoenix.
They are celebrating the 25th anniversary of Snick all throughout August, showing the Snick blocks on Saturday nights starting at midnight till 2 a.m. There is so much good happening right now.
Yeah.
It's easy to focus on the bad, but
so let's turn that around.
On the good.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying, like, I don't want you guys to think we live in an imaginary world forever and always. Like, we obviously do. We love this stuff. So, I appreciate all the comments I get about people who come and meet us and they say this made our day and stuff like that, and that means a lot. And I just want to say, pay that forward, push that out there for somebody else.
That being said, Cousin Skeeter is still a bad show.
Yes,
he's a puppet.
Yeah. Well, that with all that out of the way, let's talk about the things we love from our childhood in the 90s and inspired us to be the horrible people we are today. So I'm going to break this up into 2 sections. We're going to do live action comedy and then live action drama. Okay, so it all starts back with, and this is my earliest memories of Nickelodeon, and really it should be anybody's because this is around the beginning of Nickelodeon, was The Adventures of Pete and Pete, which I was a big fan of this. It lasted for 3 seasons with a total of 34 episodes, 5 specials, and from what I'm gathering, 24 shorts. The 1 minute shorts, in which I didn't know this. The shorts came first, and they were 1 minute, and they began in 1989. They aired until 1990. Then Nick realized they were kind of a hit, packaged some stuff together, did a 5 half-hour specials between 1991 and 1993, and then the first season of Pete and Pete, actually as a show, started in November of 1993 and ran until December of 1996. Pete and Pete, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's set in a town of Wellsville, which is actually believed to be in part of New York. It follows the adventures of Pete and Pete, brothers with the same name, on their sort of humorous and surreal adventures. Their last name is Wrigley. I'm sorry, Pete Wrigley. And it's just kind of it's a show filled with very interesting characters, very eccentric people. The family is kind of crazy. So Pete was Danny Tamborelli, who is so we have Disney legends. If there were Nickelodeon legends, Danny Tamborelli, I feel like, would be one of the first people to receive this award, because he does have quite the history with the network, and he's essentially, I feel like, was the orange blood that ran through Nickelodeon for quite some time.
Yeah, of course. He went on after this, and he was on All That. And no, definitely.
He was in another show, too.
What was the other show?
I'm going to talk about it later. I wrote it in my notes, but I didn't write it out in a way where I can just read it right now. But
okay, that's fine. But I do want to point out too, though.
Maybe it was Space Cases. I don't know.
One of the reasons why I love Danny Tamborelli is he was in the original Emilio Estevez classic. That's right, The Mighty Ducks.
Oh yeah, he was.
He did not return for the sequel. He was injured in the first one, and.
That's
yeah,
too
just
bad.
good little. Not like he was injured during the filming. His character in the movie was injured, and he didn't come back for it. But
wait, the character was injured?
Yeah, in the movie, yeah, they took him out on a stretcher in like the final game.
He was like the jerk who didn't like the rich kid, right?
No.
Is that the first one, or
No.
is that the second one I'm thinking of? When he calls him a cake eater?
Well, that's there is that, but no, he's just bad. He's bad.
Was he a bad guy in the movie? Or
No,
he was
no,
on the
he's
Ducks,
just
right?
he's not a good hockey player. I believe, if I remember correctly, his sister was the figure skater.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
both figure skaters,
That's right.
And only she ended up making it through.
That's right.
To the next movie.
Oh God, I love that movie.
I don't even think she made it through the next one, but yeah, he also is in that. So
That movie gave us Joshua Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gave us the Joshua Jackson.
And that's what we call a tangent.
No, well, it's funny because before Internet Movie Database was a thing, like that wasn't a thing for us until we were probably like, I don't know, in my 20s maybe. I was always that guy who you're watching a movie,
Yeah.
like like Home Alone, and you'd be like, this guy looks familiar, and then you'd be like, oh, that's the brother from Pete and Pete.
Yep.
Like you were always that one who knew the side character from something. So Mike Morona, is that how we say? He was from Pete and Pete. He was Kevin's brother. We looked this up. One of his brothers in Home Alone.
His oldest brother, I believe, if I remember correctly.
He was the second oldest. Jeff McAllister, because then we looked it up, and that's apparently a CEO of a company somewhere too. But so you got to make sure you type in Home Alone. But I was always a big fan of Adventures of Pete and Pete. I don't know if you remember, but Michelle Trachtenberg, she was on the show for some time too. Harriet the Spy, who also starred in Nickelodeon's first feature film.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the reason why people attached onto this show and also didn't appreciate it that much was for the eccentricness that you said. Like, we won't. You can't ever forget about kind of like the opening intros, and they go through the list of characters, which does include, which includes Little Pete's tattoo, Petunia on there,
Yes,
Mom's mom, and then Mom's metal plate that's in her head.
She could hear the police sirens whenever.
Right? Artie, the strongest man in the world, who was just so weird. And like, I'll never forget the episode where they're just like all mesmerized by watching the next door neighbor's her lower arm fat just jiggling as she's gardening in the yard. And so there was just this weirdness to it. But if you watch it back now, it's really well done. It's done not in like we'll talk about Clarissa very soon, but that was more standard, like, it was like 3-camera shoot, kind of very plain, right on videotape. While this was this way, it had a cinematic effect to it, kind of like watching the Wonder Years. It was almost like a goofier, eccentric, more kid-friendly Wonder Years.
It's around that time too, where like there were a couple of these, like this specifically, like Pete and Pete, not just Nickelodeon TV shows, that had this really interesting niche for a very specific type of people. Erie, Indiana. Do you remember that show?
I do. Yeah.
This reminds me, like Erie, Indiana was our X-Files version, and then this would be like our kind of like Wonder Years version for us, like in that age group. My episode that I always think of when I think of the show, and I don't know if how familiar you remember it or not. The tag episode.
Yeah.
Freeze tag, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. They're all running around, and I remember the mom, like, finally, like, she threatens Pete, like, he's got to clean the room, but he can't give up on this tag game they're playing, and then in the end, he goes to pass out because he's been out there for so long, and she rescues him and grabs him, and you talk about cinematic, it was like slow motion grab and everything. It was a very, very intense show, but, we should have spoke about it for a hot second before, because you said it while I was saying my be nice to everybody thing. You can catch these shows currently airing right now, celebrating the 25th anniversary is it on Nick at Night, on Nickelodeon? Excuse me.
No, on Teen Nick. Of course, every night on Teen Nick at some point in time. I don't remember if it's like 10 o'clock or if it's midnight. It, of course, rolls over into the Splat, so they do a mixture of Nicktoons and animated ones too. But yeah, as I mentioned, right now for August, this is the 25th anniversary of Snick. So they are on Saturday nights. They're running 2-hour blocks, just like Snick would be, starting at midnight, and even doing like the intro with like Snick with
Sabrina's
the couch.
brother Ferguson. Oh yeah, the couch. But then like her brother came out and was like, "I'm Ferguson." Like the character interludes they would have between commercial breaks.
And like they had it for the first one that they did was. Clarissa, Pete and Pete, Are You Afraid of the Dark? And then Ren and Stimpy, which I thought it's for four. Right, it's for 4 shows to represent Snick. Yeah, maybe a little bit of all that too, but it was such a good block. And so yeah, I know there's not that many left once this will be released, but there's still time to go back and see it. So
there's still time to request it too. But
yep.
Well. Anything else to say about Pete and Pete? Should we move on?
Yeah, but let's move on. It's a great show.
Move on to Hey Dude, which I guess I should have started with because this one's I'm sorry. Well, technically they were around the same time. So Hey Dude, 5 seasons, 65 episodes from July 1989 until 1991. And all I could think is, what were the labor laws like in the early 90s? Because they're saying 5 seasons from 1989 until 1991. The math is not adding up there. Yeah. But this is Nickelodeon's second original television show, behind 1984's Out of Control. That was the first one. I didn't look that up really any more than that. But the series was set in the fictional Bar None Dude Ranch near the city of Tucson, Arizona, and it portrayed the lives of the ranch owner, his son, a female ranch hand, and 4 teenage summer employees. And one of my things that I remember very much from the show are 2 individuals that were on it, very specifically Christine Taylor, who starred as Melody Hansen, and David Lasher as Ted McGriff, because he went on to be Josh on Sabrina, and he caused a lot of trouble for Harvey and Sabrina's relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all Christine Taylor on this. Obviously, Christine Taylor went on to appear in stuff like Dodgeball. She was Marcia in the Brady Bunch.
Oh, love her as Marcia.
Then
but Jan, you don't have any friends.
I just watched like the last hour of it over the weekend on TV.
Gold.
It is so good.
Yeah, it's like I don't even think we appreciated that movie as much as we should have when it originally came out.
No, and I'm just glad that we got a sequel with it too, so that way we had more adventures. Yeah. No, but exactly. So she, and then of course she married Ben Stiller. They're no longer together,
sadly,
as of this year. But just a huge star came from this show, and I remember watching this all the time. But this was, this was still early for me. I was very young when this debuted and when it was on its initial run. Yeah, it replayed all the time in repeats. But again, this was an older group of teens. This wasn't as much for me. So while I still have fond memories of watching it, I will not say that this is my favorite of the
No,
shows.
no. And I don't remember it necessarily cycling through as much as the other ones for me. Like, I do remember it being on and it never really being offensive or anything like that. And I did always actually really Christine Taylor's character, Melody, was my favorite character on the show. So it was like, I do remember that. Like, I remember it a little bit, but it wasn't one that stuck around quite so much. Like this next one, too, that I couldn't even remember, called Welcome Freshman.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd ever heard of it. I had to look it up and everything. So it's the comedy, like I said, that ran on Nickelodeon from 1991 to 1993 with reruns until 1996. It had 3 seasons with 52 episodes. So it wasn't like a short-lived show either. But it took place at Hathorne High School with a group of high school students and a bumbling vice principal. It sounds very like the answer to Saved by the Bell. Mm-hmm. But what I thought was cool is like this was one of the first filmed at Orlando.
Oh, well,
filmed in Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, I just genuinely, I have no recollection of this.
Well,
was it in repeats a lot? Did they show it?
It says reruns until 96. It says the earlier episodes of the series consisted of comedy sketches that loosely followed a theme. Some of the comedy routines involved a tortoise named Mortis, teaching children about safety, a documentarian named Mr. History who talks about past generations of freshmen, the bumbling freshman hating vice principal, Mr. Lipman. Imagine his life is like none of this really rings a bell to me. So it really wasn't like it didn't hit a sweet spot anywhere in there for me. So I'll just move past it. Like because I was to one of my favorites though. Here is coming up next. Clarissa Explains It All.
Yeah.
This went on for 5 seasons. There were 65 episodes. It aired from March 1991 until October 1994. And if you're not familiar, in the series, Clarissa Darling, played by one Miss Melissa Joan Hart, my teenage heartthrob.
MJH.
Yeah, it was Melissa Joan Hart and Amy Jo Johnson. But even when I'm Amy Jo Johnson, I knew something wasn't true within my heart for her. But anyway, Clarissa is a teenager who addresses the audience directly to describe the things that are happening in her life, like dealing with typical adolescence concerns such as school, boys, pimples, and wearing her first training bra. She's often annoyed by her younger brother, Ferguson. She's got her best friend, Sam, that's always climbing up into her bedroom through a ladder and a window. Shady.
Yeah.
But Clarissa was very unique in like it broke that fourth wall, so she was always addressing the audience. I remember there was always a video game kind of element of the story because she always had a computer or I don't know if it was a computer, but it was a video game that she played that kind of played out. It was like her in the game, and it kind of played out the metaphor of whatever the situation was that she was dealing with. But this was a show that I really enjoyed it. I think it was just one of those like it was like Boy Meets World in a sense, where it had good personalities, and just in that. I mean, she was older than us, so I didn't really understand the issues she was dealing with. But
I would say this show in particular paved the way for later for Disney to do stuff like Lizzie McGuire and Hannah Montana. That kind of, that young female character that still has a lot of power and a lot of smarts to her, and she navigates the world. There's a lot of good in Clarissa Explains It All, and I enjoy about it too. It also does have a slight zaniness to it, kind of not weird like Pete and Pete,
but like an energy.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's just a little off kilter is the best way to describe it. So, but this is one that I feel like watching it back while you do have fond memories for it, it's a little tough to watch it back. It just doesn't live up to that excitement of watching it when you were that age.
I did. The thing I always loved watching, and I don't know why, was when she would do the opening and she would spell out the name with her finger. I always thought that was so cool, and then spin it around. Yeah, because she'd have to keep starting over and writing it. And that was na 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 na. But so some fun little things here. In 2015, Mitchell Kriegman, the show's creator, released a novel called Things I Can't Explain. And it serves as a sequel to the series. And it's in the novel, Clarissa is now in her late 20s and trying to navigate life as an adult. I want to know what happened to her and Sam. So I might have to read this book. I'm serious. So that's called Things I Can't Explain. There was also a pilot for a follow-up series just called Clarissa, that was shot for CBS in 1995, but was not picked up by the network, unfortunately.
Yes, and then she discovered she was a witch.
Yes, and I know that's not on the show, so we'll get to that. We'll have to do a TGIF episode now.
Oh, TGIF. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's going to be okay. So now we know the follow-up series to this is TGIF because because I was obsessed with Sabrina.
And that's not even good TGIF. So
No, you're a step-by-step man.
Oh, day by day.
But yeah, I had a love. I feel like Melissa Joan Hart was a friend of mine growing up. I know that sounds really weird, but because of Clarissa and then Sabrina and then like she was in some movies I enjoyed, Drive Me Crazy. It was a terrible movie, but I love it. Came out. I was just the right age to enjoy that,
Adrienne Grenier.
Yes, Adrienne Grenier before pre-Entourage. And there was a girl in my church that looked exactly like Melissa Joan Hart, and I used to just follow her around because I thought she was Sabrina.
Hey,
so I'm like,
you were the Sam to her.
Clarissa, yeah, because I should say Sabrina wasn't on. Yeah, I was too young for that. But anyway, so I feel like Melissa Joan Hart is an American treasure. So I never watched that Joey show she was on though with
Melissa and Joey.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But anyway, so that moves into another one of ours that I actually thought was maybe on longer than it was. So this surprised me. Salute Your Shorts. This is the big one that I think about when I think about Nickelodeon. Like, there were only 2 seasons, 26 episodes, and it ran from 91 to 92. I didn't know this, but it was based on a book, too, called Salute Your Shorts, Life at Summer Camp by Steve Slavkin and Thomas Hill. It was set at the summer camp, Camp Onawana.
We hold you in our hearts.
It focuses on teenage campers, their strict and bossy counselor, Ugg, and the various capers and, these are not my words, capers and jocularities. Jocularities? Maybe it's a soft J. They engage in. But, we all remember the character like Donkey Lips. Everybody remembers Donkey Lips. He always talked with his, lisp, and then he went on to be in Dude, Where's My Car?
Yep, and so he did have a life beyond there.
Well,
but
so didn't Budnick. The friend, Donkey Lips' other part, because he was John Connor's friend in Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
This show, I think this is actually one that that while it wasn't great quality, I think this had a lot of staying power because of stuff like Donkey Lips and the interesting names for the characters with, but then of course moments like no one from our generation will ever forget the Awful Waffle. Unless you've forgotten what the Awful Waffle is.
I have. What's the Awful Waffle?
Oh, the Awful Waffle is essentially like a camp punishment, which includes being laid out on a table, having your shirt pulled up, and then being barraged with maple syrup and topping, and it's just Awful Waffle, Awful Waffle.
Now I remember.
There's just so many little moments about the show that I feel like are just, it's sticking. And then this was a perfect summer show. It's summer camp. And so
you felt like you were you were hijinking, with them. You know what I mean? The song was so catchy that to this day we could probably do the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I'm right there too. It's
and
just
when we think about you, it makes me want. Hey.
Camp on a wanna, camp on a wanna, camp on a wanna.
It's hard. Get it right or pay the price.
Yeah, but I never went to camp growing up. That wasn't something that I did.
I wanted to do, though.
I did later on, but when I was watching this show, I never went to camp. So this was kind of a way into it. This was like,
this is awesome. I want to be doing this.
I honestly, I thought summer camp was a mixture of heavyweights and Salute Your Shorts, and that sounded like
I thought Salute Your Shorts was like a sequel to that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Heavyweights was a sequel to Salute Your Shorts because Salute Your Shorts was first. Do you have an episode that you specifically remember? Because I do.
Awful Waffle episode for me.
Okay, so mine is there's a radio station contest and they're not allowed to use the phone or leave their bunks or something like that, and they need a quarter. So they only have like one quarter left. I forget what they're trying to win something, but the quarter falls into this grate, and so they all have to chew all this gum, and they make this thing where they're trying to get the quarter out. They get the quarter out, and they go to call something happens, and then Ugg finds them, and then later they're on the phone and they don't know the answer to the question. And this is why I know a giraffe's tongue is black, because they didn't know. Ugg runs in and you think he's going to bust them, and he's got the speaker and he's like, and I used to sit at a park bench when I was a kid and watch the giraffe's big black tongue, and I like it always stuck with me. So that became a trivia question later in life. I got right because of that show. So
There you go.
anyway, that's my episode. But
Yeah.
the next one of these shows was a show I did start watching, but I never finished. The Secret World of Alex Mack.
Yeah.
Because it was part of that whole, like, look at the special effects we can do now. It's kind of like Terminator. Ran from 1994 to 1998, 4 seasons, 78 episodes. Alex Mack is an ordinary teenage girl and living with her parents and older sister Annie in the town of Paradise Valley. While walking home one day after school, she's nearly hit by a truck from a chemical plant. During the incident, she's drenched with a top secret chemical that gives her strange powers like telekinesis, shooting electricity from her fingers, and the ability to dissolve into the puddle of water, which I remembered that. The powers, I guess, proved to be unpredictable, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, there's a lot more. But I remember starting the show and being like, oh, I was really interested because it seemed like it was a conspiracy. Like they had to figure out what was going on with this chemical plant and all this stuff. And it was like I watched the first season and then it went away. And then I guess I just never could get back to it because I know she got like a new power in the second season or something.
I probably watched every single episode, but that was probably more or less because I had a crush on Larissa Oleynik. But
was that Alex Mack?
Yeah, that was. And then, of course, she went on to do things like 10 Things I Hate About You.
Was she the sister?
She was the younger one.
Oh, yeah, she is. Yeah. That's where I know her from. Yeah.
No, I mean... So,
she reminds me of Chloe from Smallville. I always thought they were the one and the same person.
No. Now, I know I watched. It wasn't a probably thing. I watched this show, but it holds no emotional value for me.
You weren't invested in Jessica Alba being on the show?
No, it's...
Because she's on it. She's a minor character.
I would watch Clarissa. I'd watch Salute Your Shorts, Pete and Pete, Hey Dude. This was one where it's like when you started to get into the point where, I think as a kid, you watch a lot of TV and you just digest it all. And, for the most part, you just still sit through. But this was one of those ones, kind of like we talked about in the last episode with some of the Nicktoons that we didn't like as much. I feel like this was probably, in terms of a TV series, a live action one. This is one where I was like, I don't know if this is for me as much, but it's on TV. I'm still going to watch it anyways.
It didn't repeat in the same way the other shows did. I never remember this one being on like during the day. It was like an evening show or something.
I remember it all the time, but I just, again, it never really connected. I think it was because it was just, there was not a lot of reality grounded into it.
Well, the entire series is available and was just released August 1st of this month.
Oh.
So it's out there if you want to do it. I do remember, I guess I worked at a bookstore too, but I remember seeing it because I would always go and get my Goosebump books. But there was a book series that went along with this that was all original adventures except for the first book and the last book, which were like versions of that show, which was very popular at the time. I remember that being a big thing. So there was that too. So some of you out there may have read those books and really been into that. But so the next one is another show I do not remember really at all. I looked it up and the picture did look vaguely familiar, but it was called My Brother and Me. It was only on for one season with 13 episodes that ran from October 94 until February of 95. The show made history as the network's first show featuring a predominantly black cast. Despite its popularity, so I guess it was really popular when it premiered, the series only lasted for the 13 episodes, and apparently, the show was actually canceled due to disagreements between the producers and the creators of the show. It didn't have anything to do with ratings, because there was a second season that was planned, but apparently there was such a big rift between the two parties that it caused a major fallout that essentially caused the show to just fall apart, which is unfortunate. For anybody out there that did watch, like I said, I didn't have cable, so I kind of relied on whatever was going to be on around SNCC or when I was at my grandparents' house. So I don't think it really repeat too much. So I didn't really get exposed to the show.
I remember it, but I couldn't tell you like the plot of a single episode at all. But I do remember it, just not well.
So now this next one though, I do remember. I never got to watch this one as much as I wanted to watch this one. Space Cases, 2 seasons, 27 episodes, created by Peter David and Bill Mummy, who you may or may not know as Will Robinson from the original Lost in Space television show. This show ran from March 1996 to January of 1997. The premise of the show revolves around a group of misfit students and 2 adults who are stranded far from home aboard an alien ship named Krista, in honor of Krista McAuliffe. Their attempts at journeying back see many dangerous adventures and controversies, and some occasionally more mature themes. So what I was reading about this show, which one of the big deals for me as a kid on the show is that Zach had left Power Rangers. Walter Emmanuel Jones had left Power Rangers, and he was on Space Cases. And I was like, what? They've got a Power Ranger? I'm going to watch this show. Also, I was really into space shows, too.
Yeah.
It was like Star Trek, and I actually watched Lost in Space, too. But so this series was shot in Canada, Montreal, Quebec. But because of its budget constraints, a lot of props from Are You Afraid of the Dark and other shows would show up in the series. Are You Afraid of the Dark was filmed in Canada, but what they would do, only the campfire scenes were filmed there. Then the rest of them were filmed anywhere else, but... Well, hold on. We'll get to.
I didn't know if you had that fun tidbit in there.
I didn't have that part, but I did have a filming related thing about Are You Afraid of the Dark? But that is interesting. It is interesting too because a lot of stuff left where it was originally filmed to come film in Orlando, except for one show at the end we're going to talk about did the reverse. It started in Orlando and had to leave to go somewhere else. So, but this series had a lot of people on it. George Takei showed up, Mark Hamill, Bill Mummy, like I said, Katie Seagal, Michelle Trachtenberg, Danny Tamborelli, and Robin Leach even. But and then I said Walter Emmanuel Jones was on it, but that was it. I know you didn't really care for this episode, this show.
I actually think that if I ever want to go down the nostalgia road, that maybe I will. I'll give this one a shot if I can find a good amount of episodes out there for it, because I think I would probably enjoy it more today than I did way back when. But
yeah,
I'm always up to give it another shot.
Well, we'll see if it comes in the rotation for the Nick that block area there.
I think it has before. I think I've seen it before during the late night block, but they've been so heavily focused with the splat hours doing a lot of the Nicktoons and not so much the live action that when you do get live action ones, it's a nice surprise.
So Space Cases will take us down to one of the ones that I did always enjoy, Kenan and Kel, which ran for 4 seasons with 65 episodes and 1 made-for-TV movie. It aired from 96 until July of 2000. Obviously, the two, I believe they started on all that, Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell. And so this show, the first 2 seasons were shot in Orlando, and then the last 2 seasons were shot in Hollywood. So at both coast-to-coast Universal Studios theme parks. The show was set in Chicago, Illinois, and centered on the antics of 2 mischievous teenagers, Kenan Rockmore and Kel Kimball. Kenan is a high school student with a job at a local grocery store, while Kel is clumsy, orange soda-loving best friend.
Wait,
I didn't finish my sentence there.
Who loves orange soda?
Kel loves orange soda.
Is it true?
Yes, it's true.
I do.
Yes, that was always the thing I remember. I did enjoy this show. I always liked Kenan and Kel, and I'm glad to see that Kenan is doing well for himself on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I mean, Kenan.
He's become a staple of the show, I feel like.
Well, yeah, no, he absolutely is a staple of current SNL. I mean, Kenan has such an interesting career that
Mighty Ducks brings us back to Mighty Ducks.
Well, he's in Mighty Ducks 2 and 3. On top of that, being a prominent player, one of the funniest people in the cast of all that, leading him to be this fun child comedian, which, eventually led to doing the spinoff of one of the All That sketches with Good Burger.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to find a way to put "Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your?" Didn't they do a skit for Saturday Night Live for that or something? They did something recently.
That was on Jimmy Fallon.
They redid it because they got them all together.
He did one of his. Because Kel Mitchell, after Mystery Men, I believe he kind of just disappeared off off
I
the
forgot
grid,
about
and he
Mystery Man.
became like a pastor or something, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Keenan and Kel was actually a really great show. This was definitely this was a staple show of Nickelodeon. As much as we might have a bigger nostalgia trips for stuff like Clarissa and Salute Your Shorts, this is one that like
Oh no,
Nickelodeon.
he's currently on a Nickelodeon series.
Is he back again?
It says he currently stars as Double G on the Nickelodeon series Game Shakers.
I did not realize that he finally went back into acting.
Yeah, good for
Well,
him.
yeah, no, that is good for him. But no, Keenan and Kel. If you were talking about live action, as much as I hate like talking about some of the other ones, but like crap like iCarly and Drake and Josh, Keenan and Kel. Those are some of the standout ones from all time for it. And so yeah, I give them credit. I'm glad that they were able to make so much out of it, and that Keenan's still working to this day, and Kel's apparently back in the game now too.
Yeah. I'm just looking at this as Double Dare. I guess we're gonna have to talk about that too when we get to there. But
Oh yeah, we doing the. We're doing the variety and game shows later, so know all that this episode, but very soon. No Double Dare now.
Well, we're getting to your favorite show next, which is Cousin Skeeter, which Keenan and Kel did make a very special appearance in an episode of Cousin Skeeter. But Cousin Skeeter ran from 1998 to 2001, 3 seasons with 52 episodes. It starred Robert Richard as Bobby, a young boy whose life changed when his strange cousin Skeeter came to live with his family. With Skeeter's help, Bobby learns life lessons and tackles the ups and downs of growing up. Within the show, Skeeter is treated like a regular human, and no mention of him being a puppet is ever made. Although the series was shot in a single camera format, it used a laugh track. Nothing to say about my cousin Skeeter, huh?
I
never really
hated
watched this show. Yeah, it was just maybe it was just because it was like shot kind of weird because he is the only puppet on the show.
It was a dumb show. It was just a dumb show. I did not like it.
We're gonna get the wrath of the cousin Skeeter heads.
Well, and that's I want to say too. At this point, at about this exact time with like cousin Skeeter and stuff, 2 things changed with me. One, I started
Puberty.
Yeah, actually, pretty much right. I started paying attention to shows that were like sitcoms and stuff that were not really appropriate for me when I was younger. Watching Friends, watching reruns of Seinfeld, and so shows like Cousin Skeeter that just, I could watch Seinfeld and be blown away by the brilliance of the show, or I could watch Cousin Skeeter. And then this is getting right around that 2000 mark. That's when Disney finally, like with their live action, they started to pull some of that Nickelodeon goodness and started launching Lizzie McGuire and even Stevens, which they goofy stuff, but they were entertaining, and they still are when you catch them every now and then.
Yeah. My thing was, I think that was it. I wasn't really like turning on Nickelodeon as much as I was before. Still watching my Power Rangers, but not Nickelodeon. So then we have one more of the 90s, and it counts because it started airing October 99 until April 2002. 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowd. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you'd ever heard of this one.
Yeah, no, I remember it too.
3 seasons,
Again,
40 episodes. The guy becomes the dog. Yep. It's the Eddie McDowd is considered to be a schoolyard bully by his peers. Anyway, so the drifter, there's a drifter that comes along, turns him into a dog, says he has to do 100 good deeds before he can become a human again. So Seth Green actually provided the voice of the dog in the first season, and then that changed later. Danny Tamborelli also starred as Spike on the show, and Allison Hannigan provided the voice of Gigi, a Pomeranian, on the show as well. So you got 2 Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I didn't
2
know.
people that were currently on Buffy actually at that time, I believe, too.
I didn't know about Allison Hannigan. Interesting.
I didn't either. I saw that and I was like, oh, she was. Not that she's not. I don't mean about. Oh, she's really young back then. But I mean, what year did Buffy went off the air? In like 2004, 2003, I think. And so it was on for 7 seasons, 3 minus 4. Yeah, so she was definitely on Buffy the Vampire Slayer at this time. But anyway, it sounds interesting enough. Apparently, it was very popular in like the UK. So they reran it a lot there, not so much here.
I can believe that.
Well, that'll bring us over to the drama category. Okay, with the drama category here. So we're gonna go back in time again here. It starts with the show 15, which I do not remember this show either. 4 seasons, 65 episodes, ran from 1991 to 1993. The series was first conceived as 15, an improvised form, a show for the Disney Channel, where a 13-episode pilot series was produced and tested in the U.S., but after Disney decided not to proceed with the project, Nickelodeon and its Canadian partners joined Binkley in producing the series, which was known in its first and second season as Hillside in Canada, and throughout the 65-episode film run as 15 in the U.S. So the show was subsequently syndicated around the world with runs in Germany, Germany and Israel, among others. It followed the students of fictional Hillside School and dealt with a variety of issues, including dating, divorce, alcohol abuse, and friendship. It sounds like essentially Nickelodeon's Degrassi. The show played heavily into stereotypes, including 2 characters named Dylan and Chris who wore leather jackets to show off their toughness.
I have zero recollection of this at all.
Well, the first 2 seasons were shot in Canada, the last 2 in Orlando.
Oh, good day.
So I don't know where that plaque is commemorating this show, but so anyway, I don't remember it. I don't remember the repeats of it. I mean, I was clearly too young for this one, so but not too young for the next one, even though I definitely was too young to be watching it. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Which is probably arguably one of my favorite shows made on Nickelodeon, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. I think again, when talking about the benchmark, the staple shows, especially when we're thinking back on the 90s, if you asked people what was your favorite live action, I think the answer you would immediately get is Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
There was something about it. This show as a child, especially watching it during SNCC, where it's 9:00 at night and dark outside.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm going to scare myself right now.
Exactly. It was watching a scary show there.
Well, it was part of the thing of the 90s. Remember Scary Stories for Sleepovers, those books? Or
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
No, there's 2 different series. There's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, but then there's another series called Scary Stories for Sleepover, and it's like a little more morbid. The main character never really makes it out. But we those were very popular at my school. There's the black and white cover with the super scary looking images on it. Yeah. That's the one you were talking about?
Yeah.
Then the one I'm talking about is it was very colorful images, but horrifying.
Oh, I never saw that one before.
I will bring one in and show you, in fact, and I'll show it up in the next episode too.
Don't, Shane.
Because when I was in school, I was going to do one of the stories as a short film for school. But I was like, do I want to do a story about murdering kids? So Are You Afraid of the Dark ran for 7 seasons, 91 episodes. It was a little confusing because I think it started in Canada. So it premiered in Canada first, and then it started on Nickelodeon in 1999 and went until 1996, and then was revived in 1999 until June of 2000.
Yeah.
But the article when I was reading was a little confusing because it said it was picked up by Nickelodeon in 1991, but it started in Halloween of 1990. So I don't know.
Yeah. So what happened with the show was like all the campfire scenes. Once it came to Nickelodeon and they started kind of going a little bit more balls to the wall on it, they did move a lot of the production to the United States in terms of the actual shows themselves. The campfire scenes though were all though based in Canada. That's where they did it, and the first episodes were filmed there. But it was just, it was a Canadian television series that just, it ended up playing well. So they were able to take it the next step. Like the episode, I always remember. It's one of the most...
Wait. I got to tell what it's about first. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Both series of Are You Afraid of the Dark revolved around a group of teenagers who refer to themselves as the Midnight Society. Every week at a secret location in the woods, one member would tell a scary story to the group. The actual story, rather than the telling, was displayed on the the kids tell the story and then we see the story, not the kids. The story was shown between the group's arrival at the site and their departure, and each storyteller would begin their story by saying, "Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society. I call this story blah," and then they would throw in the thing that I thought was the coolest thing in the world, the dust
And it
that would make the fire spark up. Yeah, which my mom just got some of that because she sent me a video of my nephews throwing it in a fire, and I thought they're living a cooler life than me. But then, then they would say something at the end, and I forget. But they would put out the fire with the thing. Anyway, so the show was known for many notable guest stars: Bobcat Goldthwait, Charles Dutton, Ryan Gosling, Nev Campbell, Will Friedle, Melissa Joan Hart, which you gave me that episode with Melissa Joan Hart the other day.
Well, and that's
Hayden Christensen. I know your favorite actor.
Well, the Melissa Joan Hart episode is the Tale of the Frozen Ghost. And
is this the one that's your favorite one?
Yeah, this is my favorite one. It was absolutely terrifying, and that's the thing. This is where they brought it down, and they brought these American actors into it and was able to do this joint cooperation between the two and like just really make it a bigger, better show. And the Frozen Ghost one, you watch it back now and it is so stupid. It's a little boy that they've just like completely desaturated and made him all like pale because he was frozen. A person murdered him and he couldn't find his jacket and says, "I'm cold." And it's just so bad, but kind of almost like that exact type of sense. But I remember being so terrified when he would pop up. It was the same kind of like painful feeling I'd get in my gut as when we'd watch Three Men and a Baby and he'd see the cutout in the back window and think that it was actually truly an angel that came back. Are you not aware of this?
Oh, I'm aware of it. Yeah, I'm aware of that. But the one that I always remember, and it scared the bejesus out of my sister, was there was one about a pool. It was at the school. There was a monster in the pool, and it had something to do with acid. You had to pour acid on it or something like that. And I even remember watching it being like, this is a really intense episode. But my sister, Jackie, she could not handle that. And no, my sister is not Jackie Gailey. Although I could only imagine Jackie Gailey watching the show getting scared.
Yeah.
But I remember that one, but I also remember the episodes that I really enjoyed. I remember the Nev Campbell one. That one was Fear Soup, and I remember that's at the restaurant. Everyone loved the soup, but they scared people to death. That's how they got the flavor into the soup. But I remember the I always thought it was cool because there was a couple of recurring characters in the stories. So the kids would tell these stories, and every now and then this one character would kind of carry through. There was like the guy, Sardo, who owned the magic shop. Remember, there was one about doors. Like there was this little door that they could buy, and they were like, oh, it's unique, one of a kind. And then there were actually two. And then Dr. Vink, as in Vava Vink. I remember him too. This is a show that if I'm gonna watch any of these shows in its entirety, beginning to end, this is what I'm gonna watch. Yeah. Like it's like what I said. Like we had those scary stories, and Goosebumps was really popular. Like when we were kids, it was all about getting scared.
Yeah. No, and this was it was kind of like the Twilight Zone for kids. At that time, a little bit, because not every episode was just like straight up horror. A lot of it was like just sideways twisted kind of stuff. And so it's a really special show to a lot of people out there. I enjoy catching episodes whenever I can. Like last year, all week of Halloween, for 5 nights straight, they showed episodes on the Splat. Goodness. So my DVR was just filled up.
So you can only get, I checked, you can only get seasons like 1 through 5 on DVD here, but 6 and 7 are the revival seasons. Yeah. So that might change. People might not care. But if you are in like Canada, you can get the whole series. But yeah, this is one that needs I need this on a streaming service or something like that. I might just invest in the DVD. I don't know. I said that about Goosebumps too. And then if I drink too much around Halloween, I'll be like, let's just put on the Haunted Mask. Let's just watch the Haunted Mask. It's scary. Let's watch it. And I fall asleep like 10 minutes in, but I'm always like, it's so spooky. But I want to have that same experience with Are You Afraid of the Dark? Just 32-year-old intoxicated me revisiting my childhood.
I am just
like let's just put on the Haunted Mask. I kid you not. When I went to in October in like 2015 out to Halloween Horror Nights. When I got back from Halloween Horror Nights, I was like, and that was the Goosebumps movie was coming out, so there were billboards everywhere. So that's why I was like, let's just put on the Haunted Mask. Let's just watch a little bit.
Nothing says Halloween like HHN and
R.L. Stine.
Yeah, drunkily eating a pumpkin pie while watching R.L. Stine.
Well, now I have the Jack Black movie to celebrate. So.
Skadoosh.
Well, the next one that I only vaguely remembered, but I didn't really watch, was The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo. And this was 4 seasons, 41 episodes, ran from 96 until 98. The first 3 seasons were shot in Orlando, and then the last season was moved to Canada. So this starred Irene. I don't know how to say the name. It's just NG. So I don't know. As the as Shelby Woo. And then so the series revolves around the adventures of Chinese American teenage girl who lives with her innkeeper grandfather and works on a non-sworn intern at the local police department where she helps out with the odds and ends around the office. Occasionally, intriguing case comes to Shelby's attention, prompting her, getting her to like be like, "I'm going to solve this case." It was essentially the Veronica Mars before Veronica Mars. Is what it sounds like, but with Pat Morita of the Karate Kid fame, played her grandfather.
Oh, I thought you would have went back even further and said Happy Days.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. I mean, you're allowed to.
Daniel's son.
I mean, he is essentially, if you back then, if you needed like an Asian elder grandfather figure, you just went to him. So,
I mean, he was pretty great. Academy Award winner, right? Or nominee? Did he win the Academy Award?
Probably just nominate. Regardless, fantastic. I did watch this show. Being right around the same time as Alex Mack. This one actually, for me, I have more fond memories of watching The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo than I did with Alex Mack.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. No, it's I don't know. I think it was just overall a better, a more well-rounded TV series. Again, like with Alex Mack, you mentioned a lot of like the problems that she had with the accident and all of the little mysterious things she could now do. I just never really latched onto it. But this one, yeah, I couldn't tell you like what my favorite episode was of this or anything, but I do have some fond memories of watching it for sure.
It just says he was nominated. It doesn't say whether he won it or not, so I don't think he did. So sorry.
He deserves an honorary Oscar.
I just needed to know.
Posthumously.
Because all I can think about is that episode of Community where they do the Karate Kid, the play.
Yeah.
And they cast Chang as Mr. Miyagi. So that is going to bring us to there's 2 shows left. One called The Journey of Alan Strange, which I do actually remember this show. At first I didn't, and then I was looking up photos and clips of it, and I was like, oh, yeah, I do remember this. 3 seasons, 57 episodes, ran from 1997 to 2000, and the series follows a story of a young, I don't know how to say it, Zalon. It's an alien who is stranded on Earth and meets up with a young girl, Robbie, and her younger brother, Josh, and their father, Ken, and the family eventually adopts him, giving him the name Alan Strange. He has extraordinary powers, including the ability to turn into his alien form, which allows him to hover. Wow, hold the phone, he hovers. He uses the abilities to bring a mannequin to life, whatever. Anyway, extremely high intelligence, can read really fast, blah, blah, blah. He lives in the family's attic in a strange alien cocoon. I remember it because I really liked the kid that played Alan Strange.
Yeah, I probably watched an episode every here and there when it would just be on, but this was another one of those shows I didn't latch onto it at all. I didn't watch it. Wasn't my thing.
I just remember the repeat. It doesn't really have an impact on me. Like, I vaguely remember it. I remember the alien form, and I remember him hovering, and I remember liking the kid, but it didn't, yeah. It was toward the end, I guess, of my time, but
they can't all be hits.
Well, the next one was also a show based on a book series, very popular and one of my favorites when I was younger, but the Animorphs, just called Animorphs, based on the popular book series, ran for just only 2 seasons with 26 episodes from September 1998 until March 2000. I remember this because Sean Ashmore played Jake. So later on, when X-Men came out, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the guy who was in the Animorphs show. And then then his twin brother and him were on Smallville, and then slowly he kind of is now like. Then he was in that show with Kevin Bacon, I forget, on Fox. But so he's gotten a little bit more like people know who he and the brother are now. The twin brother. He got the show. He actually got the part in this because his twin brother was sick on the day of the audition. So he went instead. But this is about 5 kids and an alien with the ability to turn into any beast they touch versus an army of parasitic aliens who are slowly infiltrating Earth. I loved the show. Like this or the book series. Like I would always buy the book series. They were like Goosebumps once a month. But there was like 54 books, and I stopped. I lost it somewhere along the way. Like maybe like halfway through. Like I read the spinoffs and everything too, and so I never knew what happened. And now I'm like gone to read the description of what happened, and I might have to go back and reread these because I really do. From what I read about what the ending is, I was like, oh, that got really dark and very mature. But the show, even when I was younger, where I was like, oh, this is great. I'm obsessed with Animorphs. I'm going to, morphing. That was the big thing in the 90s. The Power Rangers, anything that could morphed, and the idea of being able to touch an animal and then you've got its DNA and you can become that animal was so cool. But even when, as a kid, I was like, the special effects on this show are not great. Like, it was a show that I even knew when I was younger, like, how are you going to show all these animals? Yeah. Like, how, are they just going to be the same animal all the time? Like, because the novels are very involved. Like, they do a lot of adventures that they're in outer space, or like they're in close quarters, and there's like 6 different types of animals, and even just the alien acts. Like, how is he going to make an Andalite? What are you going to make that look like when? Yeah,
for me, that's like I read probably the first 20 or so books. Yeah. Too. Didn't make it through the entire series, but I did.
One of them dies. One of them kills one of the other ones.
Yeah. For me, what the TV show was, which I did watch bits and pieces of it. The TV show was like one of those ones where it's like if they were going to morph into a certain animal, I would kind of use that as like, okay, well, I don't want to finish this book. So,
you judging by whatever the animal was that was on the cover? Yeah. Where you like did the the flip through on the bottom of the page where it morphed, and you're like, ugh, an alligator. Yeah. No, thank you.
So that's with the show is kind of like a way like, if I didn't finish a book, I know it's not like it's not the exact same or anything even close to that, but it was still like for me, it was that way of saying like, okay, well at least I still got a kick of Animorphs, but. Yeah, that's very lazy. This is when I started to get extremely lazy.
The show just didn't feel like it didn't get what it needed. Like Animorphs should have been like a movie, or should be a movie now, I guess, now that they actually have technology that could make it interesting.
Don't give ideas. We don't need an Animorphs movie.
There is one in 2015. There was talk of one because they're saying that Scholastic has partnered with some movie studio the same way that Hasbro had, and now they're going to start going through the Scholastic library. But they did Goosebumps, so. I don't know what else, but anyway, that is that. I remember that kind of being like, I wanted to watch more of that show. It was never really on, but I also knew it probably wasn't really great either. Yeah. So I do want to do a little honorable mention, though it did not start before in the 90s. Since 2011, Power Rangers is a Nickelodeon TV show that is a live-action TV show that is currently being produced from now into the foreseeable future. But I feel like I can't not talk about the thing that Disney owned. It started on Fox, and then Disney bought it from Fox, and then it aired on Disney for like 8 or 9 years, and then it almost dipped away, and then Nickelodeon was like, we'll take it. And so it's had this kind of like bounced around into all aspects of where I watched TV as a child. So just interesting.
It's a moneymaker.
Yes. So that is that. We said what our favorites were in this episode. So now it's your turn to tell us what your favorites are. Do you have a favorite episode of Clarissa that you remember specifically? Or was there an Are You Afraid of the Dark that you just could not turn off the lights anymore after watching? So let us know in the comments, Twitter, anywhere you can. Craig, thank you for having this conversation with me about this.
Thank you.
And we shall return next week talking about variety shows as well as game shows.
Yes,
game shows. Global, Guts and Legends of the Hidden Temple. Figure it out. All lots of fun stuff to talk about. So look for that in the next episode of DIS Pop.